Here's how you can rise above the chaos of the world. Hi, my name is Michelle Fondin. I'm an author and speaker. I'm the author of 12 published books, including The 8 Limbs of Yoga for Modern Times, a practical guide to the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. I'm also the author of Heal Yourself, A Return to Wholeness, the integration of body, mind, soul, and spirit. You can find all of my published books on Amazon. If you're new to my channel, welcome. Thank you for subscribing below. Click on the bell, scroll up to all for all notifications. And thank you for giving the video a thumbs up. I teach meditation online, on demand. You'll get your personalized mantra with me over Zoom, and you can start today. The links are all below. Welcome to Spiritual Wisdom, where I address a spiritual topic on helping you live a better life, more peaceful, serene, and living in the highest light and love of God or universal consciousness or whatever you want to call it. I'm here with my friends Gudetama. Still can't find my Grogu plushie. I've got my Grogu tumbler with my Tessino Dandelion Caramel Nut Tea. This is the best in the world, non-caffeinated if you're interested, totally non-caffeinated, but I do drink caffeine. The song that came to mind as I was preparing for this video was Sarah McLachlan's "The World is on Fire, It's More Than I Can Handle." That is the refrain. I don't know if that's titled to the song, but that is definitely the refrain. And that has been ringing in my head for the last few weeks, actually. And I know a lot of people feel this. They feel the world's on fire. It's way more than I can handle. I don't think I can do this. It feels like everything in the world at this time is in utter chaos. And that's the way it feels sometimes, right? Hey, I grew up in the 80s where there was the Cold War, there was the AIDS epidemic, there were so many issues and problems. There was the Iran-Contra scandal. There were so many things happening that everyone seriously thought the world was ending at that time. Even then, people were like, what is happening? Is Nostradamus's predictions going to come true? Is the world actually ending? Well, it didn't end, obviously. We're still here. And in 2025, it can feel very much the same, where the world feels very chaotic. People feel very angry. There's a lot of struggle and a lot of division, and we're feeling this in society. But as a spiritual being having a human experience, you can rise above the chaos. You can rise above the duality. You just have to make the choice. You might be thinking right now, but that is really, really difficult. Because I really care about certain issues. I care about certain people's rights. I care about people being able to choose freedom if they want to choose freedom, freedom of speech, freedom of movement. I want people to be able to live and have wealth and have food on the table. I care about certain political issues, or I care about certain spiritual issues. I care about my family. And a lot of people also say, I don't want to not care because then my family will get very upset. My colleagues will be really upset with me. My world will become very small if I don't care what's going on in the world. And I would say to you that even though the spiritual journey can be a lonely journey, because as Dr. Wayne W. Dyer wrote, it is never crowded along that extra mile. And I was thinking that the other day as I was parking my car very far away from other cars. I have a newer car. I love my car. I don't want it around other cars. So I park it really far in the parking lot. And then I walk all the way to the front. But it takes a while. But it's never crowded along the extra mile. And although the spiritual journey might be a lonely journey, you are being called to rise above the chaos of this world, because you are in this world, but you are not of this world. And if you're watching this video, you're taking that very much to heart, that you're in this world, but not of this world, and that you are a spiritual being. You are having this human experience. See, the human experience is not having you. You are having this spiritual experience. That is super different, right? The perspectives are totally different. If the human experience is having you, then you feel the struggle inside. You feel the pain. You feel yourself being torn apart. You feel the anger, the frustration, the enraged feeling of people being poorly treated, mistreated, that there's war and there's famine and people are being treated unfairly, and maybe you're being treated unfairly. But if the human experience is having you, then you feel all that chaos. You feel it on the inside, you feel it on the outside. You attract in people who create more chaos. You join groups that create more chaos. And I'm here to tell you right now that you don't have to be a part of that in order to be a good human being. You don't have to be a part of that in order to make things right, for example. You don't need to be a part of the chaos to feel into what you believe in your heart of hearts is the right thing for you and your family and your world, because two wrongs don't make a right. And getting into the chaos, the mix of the chaos of things, gives you more feelings of turmoil. It gives you more feelings of enragement, of anger, of frustration, and it leaves you with these really negative feelings that oftentimes you can't do much about. Because when you join forces with others, whether it's a person at work or even your spouse or your family members or people over social media, or you join groups to do marches or protests or write letters even, whatever you are focusing on that you are against, it grows in your world and it becomes magnified. It's like sticking a great big magnifying glass on that thing, and it just grows bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. It's kind of like the medical system in the United States. Now, in my book, Enlightened Medicine, Your Power to Get Well Now, I wrote that wellness abounds and people are not conscientious of this. Why aren't people conscientious of the fact that wellness is the norm? That being well, having a healthy body is actually the norm, and that sickness is abnormal. It's not normal for the body to be sick. Well, one of the reasons why we see sickness everywhere, we see medical centers everywhere, we see ads for prescriptions and medical centers and doctors' centers and weight loss drugs and drugs in general. The reason why we see so much of that is because the focus is on sickness. The global focus is on sickness and not on wellness. So everybody's paying more attention to cancer and stroke and Alzheimer's and heart disease and high cholesterol and diabetes. And the more you place your focus on something, it grows and grows and grows. So if you are to place a focus on the chaos of the world and the ailments of the world, that is what's going to grow in your world. Now, you might be thinking, well, that's just going to show me cold and callous and that I actually don't care about a damn thing, right? Like that would be the knee-jerk reaction. And I remember my dad, when he was on his deathbed, we would always have these conversations because I wanted to get into journalism when I was very young. And he said, Shelley, if you want to get into journalism, you should be reading the newspaper every day and you should be watching the news every day. And I said, I don't really like it. It's all negative. You know, I don't like getting involved in that. It's negative and it doesn't make me feel good. And he said, but you should be concerned. It's important for you to be concerned. And in fact, if I wanted to be a journalist, he was right. And I went through that path and I decided ultimately I didn't want to be a journalist because it was very negative. On his deathbed, he was telling me, like, you should care about politics. You should care about political figures. You should care for a cause. And I said to him, you know, it doesn't really matter either way. Like, it really does not matter. All it does is make me feel anxious and uneasy and stressed all the time. So if I don't want to feel negative and uneasy and stressed, and I want to feel good and helpful and productive in my own life, I just have to withdraw from all of that other stuff that in the end, it doesn't really make a whole host of differences. And you might be thinking the contrary. And I'm not asking you to believe what I believe. I'm not asking you to lay down your opinions about issues or groups or political leanings. I'm not asking you to do any of that. But I'm suggesting that if you are feeling a lot of negativity on the inside, if you're feeling stressed, if you're feeling anxious, if you're not sleeping at night because you're worried about your children, your grandchildren, yourself, your family, if you're worried about the world at large, if you're worried about what's going on, your worry is not contributing to peacefulness and expansion of consciousness. Your worriness is contributing to more chaos, because chaos begets chaos, and anxiety begets anxiety, and stress begets stress. You see where I'm going here? In order to rise above the chaos of the world, it's important to transcend what is going on. And what does that mean? It means that everyone asks you to pick a side, but what if you were not to pick any side? What if you were to say, I don't choose to pick a side. I choose humanity, or I choose peace, or I choose fun. I choose prosperity. I choose good times with friends. I choose good times with the people I love. I choose making a difference by giving a smile to everyone in the grocery store, no matter what t-shirts they're wearing, no matter what hats they're wearing, no matter what. That my goal is just to spread peace. That's my only goal. And I don't need to choose a side, and I don't need to choose a cause, and I don't need to make arguments about who is right and who is wrong, because that's just fruitless in the end. And that is an ego struggle. And as a spiritual being having a human experience, you want to be able to rise above the struggle of the ego, because the struggle of the ego is I am right and you are wrong. That's the struggle of the ego, is who's right. Who is right? Who is wrong? And you really want to be able to rise above the struggle of the ego. And in order to move past that place of chaos, because chaos exists in the duality of things, right? That's where chaos exists, is in the duality of things, that things are either black or white. There's no gray area in between at all. For example, this is my stuff, and that is your stuff. And the two stuff shall not cross, right? You could apply that to anything. This is my money, and that is your money. This is my land, and that is your land. This is my religion, that is your religion. This is my education, and this is your lack of education. So again, the ego always calls us to choose between right or wrong, black or white, up or down. And it is in the duality of trying to justify your position and making yourself right and making somebody else wrong. And so every time you enter into an argument about anything having to do with any chaotic things that are happening in the world, whether it has to do with health, wellness, whether it has to do with money or lack of money, whether it has to do with who has the right to stay in a country or leave a country, whatever it happens to be, it's just creating more of that turmoil, more of that chaos, because you couldn't possibly convince every single person that you are right. And so that leaves a lot of frustration, that leaves a lot of turmoil, and it leaves you in this thinking mode of, well, how do I convince everyone to come to my side? How do I do that? And then it causes control issues and manipulation issues and sleepless nights. But the best place to be in, according to all the spiritual teachers of the world, of the past, is to be able to rise above that, rising above the duality, rising above the chaos, rising above this notion of right and wrong. Because when it comes down to any issue whatsoever, and I'm going to address like a very simple one that I addressed in one of my 8 limbs of yoga videos on Asteya, non-stealing. And in that video, I argued that most people would agree that stealing is wrong, right? Most people would agree that. That's just the way it is. That's the way we've been taught. But a mother, for example, living in the streets with her 4 children who decides to steal food in order to feed her children, some people might say that's justified stealing, right? Some people might agree, okay, maybe that is justified. If you know your children are starving, they haven't even had one single meal, and you see an opportunity to steal food in order to feed them, would you do it? Even that would have not a black or white decision, but a gray area decision. And that's the whole point of Jean Valjean and Les Miserables. But that being said, everything has a gray area, and most people would agree that on anything in the realm of duality, that there are areas of gray. And so when you can rise above the duality, when you can rise above this need to be right or wrong, if you can rise above the need to argue your point or march for a cause or for a point or for a social position, a political position, a monetary position, whatever it happens to be, you transcend duality and you transcend the general consensus of the middle ground of humanity who haven't yet learned the spiritual laws. But you are starting to learn the spiritual laws, or maybe you've been studying them for a long time. And as you move more into the spiritual laws, you realize that it's just silliness in the end, right? The chaos of the world is just silliness. It's almost humoristic when you look at how seriously people take certain things. And it might look very awful to you from the standpoint of, well, people are hurt, people are dying, people are this, people are starving. But when you think about when you're in the midst of the chaos, there is no possible way that you can change things because you're right there in the turmoil of things, right? You're right in the middle of the turmoil, whether it's with turmoiled feelings, turmoiled emotions. And there's nothing you can do when you're at that place. The only place you can do anything about anything is when you have transcended that. Then you can do stuff about it. And you might be wondering, like, what can I do? What can I do to help the world that is suffering? You can be a peaceful person yourself, as I mentioned. You can focus on your own well-being, your health, your vitality. Are you spreading unconditional love on the planet in every way, shape, and form possible that you possibly could? Are you giving, like I said, are you giving a smile to everyone, no matter who they are? Are you speaking kind words? And as Mother Teresa said, are you leaving a conversation? Are you leaving a person feeling more loved than before they met you that day? And that is the sign of a person who has transcended. That is a sign of a spiritual person and a spiritual being having a human experience rather than having the human experience have you. And it's when you finally take control over yourself, your emotions, your thoughts, your being. A long time ago, I can't even remember, 1998, 1999, when I was going through some health issues, and I write about it in The Wheel of Healing with Ayurveda. I read Dr. Andrew Weil's book, 8 Weeks to Optimal Health. And I know a lot of you know this because I've written about it several times. And one of his suggestions in 8 Weeks to Optimal Health is, I don't know if it's optimum or optimal health. Correct me in the comment section below. He wrote, it is important this week, and I don't know which week it was, maybe week 1, week 2. It is important to refrain from reading newspapers or catching the news on TV. Now that was a long time ago. So that was before we could get news on our telephones, right? Our mobile phones. It was way before that. It was before we were getting news on the internet. I think the internet was in its infancy. I'm sure you could get news, but it wasn't omnipresent. And I will tell you, honestly, that was one of the best things I did for my health, and it's something I continue to do today. You know, sometimes I do a check-in if something's interesting, not catastrophic, but someone will always tell you the news if you need to know something, right? Someone will always vocalize it because people like to do that. But it was one of the best things for my health that I ever did back in 1998, 1999. Best thing. I would highly suggest that you just unplug. You unplug from the news, from newspapers, from magazines, from news crawlers, from anything regarding current events, anything. Because in the end, it doesn't matter. If you are in chaos, you're contributing to the chaos of the world. And when I say chaos, it's like any negative feelings you're feeling, any negative emotions you're harboring. And if you continue to feed on those negative feelings, rest assured you're going to join forces with other people harboring those negative feelings. And it's just going to add to your mental unrest where you're not feeling good. And then that not feeling good, the anxiety, the fear, the frustrations, not feeling good is going to contribute to not feeling well physically. And then we wonder why there are so many health problems on the planet, right? It's like, okay, let's take a look at what people are ingesting in their sensory input day in and day out, day in and day out, day in and day out. And then you go talk to people about it. You talk to your friends, you talk to your colleagues, you talk to your spouse, you talk to people online about everything that's going on in the world all the time, all the time, all the time, creating more stress, more anxiety, more fears. And it just snowballs into this great big thing that you don't want anymore. Transcend, meaning ignore what's going on around you. Ignore it. Ignore it. You're not going to contribute to the well-being of the planet by giving it attention. See, where your focus goes, energy flows, right? What you focus on is what grows. And so if you want to focus on well-being, peace, serenity, happiness, love, emotional well-being, focus on that. Focus on that. That is what's going to grow and magnify in your world. And guess what? It has a ripple effect. If you think I am wrong, try it for 1 week. Try it for 1 week and see how your life transforms. Only focus on peacefulness. Only focus on love and understanding and unconditional love and spreading joy and love to others in every way you possibly can. And just ignore what's going on. And if somebody wants to talk to you about world affairs, if somebody wants to talk to you about the world on fire and it's burning down to the ground and it's crumbling apart, just say, no, thank you. Let's talk about your day. What are you doing? What are you doing that gives you passion? What are you doing that interests you? Let's go grab a cup of coffee, or let's take a walk on the beach. Let's count butterflies. Let's look at the birds. Seriously. If you drop the conversation, they're going to have to drop it, right? Otherwise, they're just talking to themselves. And if they don't drop it, you can just decline from their presence. And that's what I do. Nobody ever talks to me about world events, ever. Never, ever, because I don't allow it. I don't allow it into my energy field. I just ignore it. I walk away. I talk about something else, talk about something joyful and happy. And that is the way you can rise above the chaos. So have a wonderful, magical, amazing week because you deserve it and humanity deserves it. Humanity deserves more and more and more people who are living magical weeks and living in joy, living in serenity, living in peace, blessing those around them instead of hating them. So I want to thank you so much for joining me on this important quest to expand your spiritual wisdom. Thank you for subscribing to my channel below. Click on the bell, scroll up to all for all notifications. Thank you for giving the video a thumbs up. Thank you for sharing this with others who could use a little spiritual wisdom. Thank you so much for your support of my YouTube channel. You can purchase one of my 12 published books. You can join my meditation course, and I will see you in the next video.